I'd ask, to whom were these advances going? What kind of entities? Do you recall? What kind of entities were we talking about?
So states do not, in general, do their own social services. They do not do services for the residents of their state. They contract out that work to most often nonprofits, occasionally profits, but most often nonprofits. And so those are then considered grant contracts. And those grant contracts are well regulated in statute, well defined in statute, and we were doing many things.
In this heated Senate Small Business Committee hearing, Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri delivers a powerful takedown that cuts straight to the heart of government accountability. He's zeroing in on Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, and he doesn't hold back calling him a crook right there in the chamber.
Go next to Senator Hawley.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thanks to the witnesses for being here. Ms. Bernstein, if I could just start with you. You worked in the Minnesota Department of Human Services, is that right? For
Correct.
20 years?
Correct.
Or more? And at the agency there, you served in roles related to contract management and compliance. Is that
Correct.
basically right? Several years ago, looking here at your written testimony, you say that you started to notice some inconsistencies in contracts that came across your desk. Can you just describe what those inconsistencies or irregularities were, what they looked like?
It was anything from obvious conflicts of interest to large advances being given. If the contract was for $3 or $4 million, we were giving $1 million advances before any work had occurred. That is a very risky thing to do. A business can just close up and they've got your money and they haven't done a thing for you. There was...
To whom were these, if I might ask, to whom were these advances going? What kind of entities? Do you recall? What kind of entities were we talking about?
So states do not, in general, do their own social services. They do not do services for the residents of their state. They contract out that work to most often nonprofits, occasionally profits, but most often nonprofits. And so those are then considered grant contracts. And those grant contracts are well regulated in statute, well defined in statute, and we were doing many things that were not compliant with statute. There would be a contract with a dollar amount that had no formula, nothing that I could find that would establish why that dollar amount was.
Could you detect a pattern in these inconsistencies?
In general, no, but I did notice a slight preference for our tribes. Our tribes were one situation where I saw contracts that no one could explain to me why they were the dollar amount that they were.
What happened when you reported these inconsistencies to your superiors?
I was called racist. You know, and then I was walked out. There was quite a smear campaign. I was investigated. I have about 400 pages of investigatory information about me.
You'd worked there for 20 years at this point. I mean, you have
Yes.
a long track record.
Yes.
As a civil servant, as a public servant. You bring this to the attention of your supervisors, as you are supposed to do, and it sounds to me like you were retaliated against. I mean, is that a fair thing to say?
Yes, absolutely.
And how did this end? I mean, how long did this go on? What was the result of it?
It actually still goes on. This started for me 7 years ago, but I am still just shuffled from one job to another. A supervisor about a year ago said, well, we have to find you something else to do now. So now I redact documents. I have 9 years of college, and I put black marks on documents for media requests.
Do you think, in light of the revelations of widespread fraud and abuse in the state, that maybe there's a systemic problem in state government that you exposed in part, but that probably extends far beyond you? I mean, is that fair to say?
There absolutely is, and I now realize that it was long before me.
Uh-huh. Are you familiar with the case of Keith Ellison?
Yes.
Keith Ellison testified under oath before a committee of this body not long ago and insisted to me that he had never done anything wrong and didn't know anything about any of the fraud and abuse. The only problem is that there are records, tape recordings of various fraudsters coming to see him associated with the scandals that the chairwoman was just talking about a moment ago, coming to see him, complaining about people, I think in your department. The fraudsters were saying, oh, we're getting pushback. Who knows? Maybe it was you. We're getting investigated. Can you do something about it? And Ellison said, oh, well, I'll see what I can do. And they offered him campaign contributions, and he took them. Unbelievably. And we know this is all true because they recorded it all. It's the problem when you work with scumbags. They'll double-cross you just like they'll double-cross anybody. The whole thing is on tape. I can't think of a greater instance of abuse of public trust. And if your own attorney general was doing it, who knows how deep, how far, how wide this fraud goes. It's extraordinary. I don't understand why people like him aren't in prison. But I want to applaud you, Ms. Bernstein, for doing your job. And I think it is absolutely shameful that you have been retaliated against and treated like scum when you are a 20-year civil servant, proud Minnesotan, just doing your job. I don't know what your politics are. I don't think it matters. I'm sure it didn't matter to you when you did your job, and yet you're treated like that. And meanwhile, people like Ellison are feted and lauded, and he's a star in his party. It's unbelievable. He's a crook. It's exceptional. We need more people like you who are doing their jobs and who are fighting for the public and fighting for what is right and true and just. And I want to thank you for coming forward, and I want to thank you, Madam Chair, for having this hearing.
The context is explosive. A longtime whistleblower from Minnesota's Department of Human Services, with over 20 years at the agency, is testifying about massive fraud. We're talking systemic failures where taxpayer dollars meant for vulnerable people were allegedly misused or outright stolen. While honest employees trying to do the right thing faced retaliation, Hawley highlights how this woman was treated like a criminal for speaking up. While those at the top protected by political connections seem untouchable, this isn't just another political spat. It shines a harsh light on how some Democratic-led states have allowed deep corruption to fester in social service agencies. Billions in federal and state funds for programs like welfare and assistance, meant to help families in need, vanishing into what Hawley describes as a fraudulent machine. And the Attorney General, whose job is to uphold the law, is accused of turning a blind eye or even enabling it. Hawley's frustration is palpable and relatable to millions of Americans who are tired of watching elites play by different rules. He's a star in his party, Hawley says, pointing out the disconnect between Ellison's public image and the reality on the ground in Minnesota. While hardworking civil servants get punished for integrity, the powerful get praised and protected. This hearing raises bigger questions. Where is the real accountability? Why do whistleblowers who expose waste and fraud often end up sidelined or fired, while the system that failed continues business as usual? Taxpayers deserve answers, especially after years of stories about pandemic year fraud that drained public coffers across the country. Hawley's message is clear: government should work for the people, not become a grift for insiders. Whether this leads to actual investigations, charges, or reforms remains to be seen. But moments like this remind us why oversight and bold voices in Congress still matter. The American public is watching, and calls for real consequences are growing louder. Ellison and similar officials across the nation should take note. The era of unaccountable power might be running out of time.